Welcome to another episode of The Happy Inventor. In 2 days, we're going to be having a meeting with Kirby Corporation to license, hopefully, our hose connector. And we'll see how that goes, and you'll be seeing those videos probably fairly soon. Today, though, I went to a middle school and gave some lectures on inventing to a couple classes, and that was very interesting. They came up with good questions, and we practiced inventing things. So I think this is going to be interesting to you just to see the inventing process actually in real time and give you some information that may help you. So without further ado, enjoy. All Happy Inventor videos are for educational purposes only. How many people know what an inventor is? Almost everybody. I unfortunately don't have a clicker for my invent. What would you describe, how would you define invent? Something that inventors do? Making something? Very good. That's actually the definition. Creating or designing something that has not existed before. All right, so something that didn't exist before. Now, so look around your room. Is there any inventions in this room? Yeah, the projector, the ceiling, the light bulb, someone had to invent that. The tripod, someone had to invent that. That was Edison, the incandescent light bulb. Someone else invented the fluorescent light bulb. The computers, definitely. Now, I'm going to talk about that a bit, and phones and computers aren't just one invention. Like a phone, that phone there, that may be about 200 or 300 inventors that had to collaborate and put little pieces in there to make it all work. Like someone had to invent the chip that is the camera in there. Someone had to invent the case that it's in. So 200 or 300 people invented that, and then before them, probably thousands of people invented things that those 200 or 300 people improved. So a lot of inventions are just improvements of what already existed. For example, that's an iPhone 12. It's old now. Now they're at iPhone 15, right? So the iPhone 15 built on the iPhone 12 and has probably a number of new inventions in it. So now the question is, what is a patent? This is actually a patent on the screen. I'm sorry, I'm blocking the view.
Something that someone has to sign so that like you can get like permission to do it.
That?
Nope, that's the wrong thing.
No, that's very close. That's very close. Right. That it's actually a document. So you see this is one of my patents here. This is the front cover of it. And essentially that patent, what it does is the government says, okay, they check it and say, oh, you're the inventor. And so then they give you a patent, and it's actually a document that says you're the inventor. And let me show you what the inside looks like. This is one of my very old patents. You can see up here, it was filed in 1993. You can't really read it, but it was 1993. So 30 years ago. So this patent is 30 years old now. And this is the invention. It's a vacuum cleaner nozzle. And the patent office looks at my invention that I send in, and they go, okay, did anyone else invent this before you? You have to be the first one to be the inventor. And they did. They said, okay, you're the first one, so we give you a patent. And there's lots of, and this is a whole different patent, sorry. But anyway, we'll show you. This is the second page of this patent. This is another patent that I invented. This one was filed back in 1995. And I'm going to show you one more. This is one that you probably have seen. This is a bungee hose. And you may have seen these things before. Maybe. Probably, huh? You've seen these pocket hose. All right. And so we got pocket hoses and other brands. Right now, Pocket Hose is paying us royalties. And there's a number of ways you can make money with a patent, because the document that I have there, let me pull that back up again. That document is how you make money, because the government says, okay, you're the inventor, we're going to protect you from other people stealing your invention. And so you can sell this patent to somebody, just like you would sell a car or sell a house. You can sell your patent. Another way you can make money is you can license it for royalties. And that is, you say, okay, here's my patent. I will let you use my patent as long as you pay me so much for every one of the inventions you sell. So in the case of the bungee hose, this patent, the person that's paying us royalties, they're paying around per hose for each one of these. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you sell millions of these, it adds up after a while. And so that's what we're doing with this particular patent right here, is we're licensing it for royalties. And there's lots of other ways you can make money with a patent, but we're not going to get into those today. We're going to keep it less complicated. And I'm going to actually move a few things around. So this is something I invented this morning. It looks very crude. But what is it? Anyone know what that is? It is a paper towel roll, but I've repurposed it because I tried to find something else to do. I wouldn't guess that you'd be able to guess what this is, or why I put tape on it, or why I stapled the end, or anything like that. But there's a reason I did all those things to this paper towel, and that is I did not have a microphone holder. And so this is for you kids if you have questions at the end. I put this on there. Now Susie can go around and go, okay, what's your question? And when we'll do that. And so I had to make something. I didn't have anything that this would fit on, so I did this. Now, why did I put the tape on it, though? Well, yeah, but I could hold it before. But there's definitely it's a handle, but what is the handle for? Why? It's for holding, but what else would it be for? It is actually better grip. That's at least one reason why I put it on there. Another reason. Anyone can think of it? This is a hard one. This is like advanced inventing. Why did I put this tape on there? No, but it does make it definitely makes a better grip. The reason I put that on here is because this paper is rough and it makes a lot of noise. So if someone's holding it, just a little bit of movement in the paper sends sound up the paper roll. And so I put the tape on there to dampen all the noise. I actually put some paper down the center too to stop noise from getting up to the microphone. So this handle basically and the paper in there is to stop the noise from getting to the microphone so that you don't hear a lot of because you can hear, let me hold it. You hear that? And that's your way over there. If you move your hand really close, the microphone's going to pick it up. So I'm going to give this to Susie. And she's going to hold that for questions. And I'm just going to put that there so we see a bungee hose. And now let's go on to the next slide. I'm going to show you a few more pages of what a patent looks like. This is page 3 and 4. And essentially they're drawings of the invention. It sort of does, but this is like a connector on a water hose, and this is the hose itself there. This is with it compressed, and this is with it expanded out. So it's essentially this hose here. When you put water pressure in it, it expands out. I can actually demonstrate a little bit. Yeah, it goes out. Now, there was a lot of problems with the first ones, which we didn't do. Someone else was actually making them, and they didn't make them very well, so they were going exploding and stuff. But the bungee hoses are actually pretty good. And part of the patent is you have the drawings, but then you also have to describe the invention in writing. And the description has to be good enough that someone that's in the hose industry can actually make that hose. So I had to write it up with enough detail that someone could make one of these hoses. And so that's what you have to do for any invention that you do. You have to describe it well enough that you can make it. All right? And so it's hard sometimes, and it takes a little bit of skill, but you might not want to invent something like this because this was more difficult. But there's other inventions that are much, much simpler that you don't need a lot of technical skills for. But science and mathematics helps you a lot in inventing. Because if you have the science, especially physics, you understand how the world works. So you can guess, like this, I never even built this. Well, I did build it, but the first one way back in 1990 really, I had the first extendable and retractable hose. I wrote up the patent without ever even building a prototype. But physics-wise, I knew that hydraulic pressure would expand it, spring tension would pull it back, and so I was able to write up the patent without ever building one. This one was kind of an accident. I was building hoses, and I was building them out of rope, basically. If you've seen large rope, they have like a woven cover on the outside. If you've never taken a big rope apart, they have a cover on the outside and then fabric on the inside. So I took all the insides out of it and used the outside as this cover, and I put an elastic tube through the middle of it. And when I put it together and it squished down, all of a sudden, the outer cover pleated all on its own. It just went, and I go, whoa, that's pretty cool. And so I patented that. But that was kind of a surprise. That was an invention. I was building a prototype to see how it would work, and all of a sudden a new invention popped out. So this is actually the patent for the bungee hose itself. I have a separate patent just for the material that goes on the outside. And so you can patent a lot of different things in the same product. For example, stretch hoses, my name is on almost every one of them that exists. I have somewhere between 30 and 35 patents just on hoses that expand and contract. Yeah, and so they're all in different aspects of that hose and different ways of doing it. Question? How many patents do I have in total? I have, at the moment, I think 65. So I have 65, but there's a lot of foreign patents I don't know about. So maybe not a lot of patents, but I know there's at least one or two that I don't know about. So maybe it's 67, maybe it's 66. You're right. You know how much it costs to actually file a patent? Yeah, if you file a provisional patent, which is like it's a patent application, but it doesn't turn into a patent. You have to actually file another non-provisional patent application. It only costs $140 to file that, which is still a lot. But when you file a non-provisional patent, you're talking around $800 for that. And that's just for you filing it. If you have an attorney do it, then $5,000 to $10,000 to do that. So it adds up really quick. So I file most of my own patents just because I don't have $5,000 or $10,000 all the time to spend on that. Let's go to the next slide. All right. So this is the inventing process. And we're actually going to do a little bit of inventing. And that microphone holder was an invention that I did. I had to say I needed a microphone holder. And I said, I don't have a stick or anything that I can use that works really well. So I had a tube. But I knew the tube, when you pick it up, you can hear it making all kinds of sound. Sound shoots out it. So I stapled the end of it. I went to the inventing phase. I stapled the end of it, put the tape around it, stuffed paper up into it to quiet it down. And so that was the inventing process. The brainstorming was, oh, I can use a paper tube. The inventing process was, okay, I have to close the end so the microphone can clip onto it. I have to put paper in it to quiet it down, and I need to put a handle or tape around it to quiet down the noise from your hand. And so that was the inventing process. Now, can I get a patent on that?
No.
I don't know. That's really weird. If you actually said, okay, this is my invention, it's a paper tube with tape around it, maybe no one has ever thought of that before. And so that's the first paper tube microphone you may have ever seen, or anyone. Right, she asked, do you really want to spend $800 to get a paper tube patent? And the answer is no. And so this brings up this topic, you don't want to patent everything you invent. I have well over 1,000 inventions, maybe 2,000. I don't even know. I have no idea how many inventions I have, but I don't patent them all. I have filed probably close to my personal, I don't know, I probably filed about 50 myself, and then patent attorneys have filed other ones. And you're right, something like that, you might be able to actually get a patent on that because it's just weird and no one has ever invented that before. Maybe, maybe not on that. But it's weird enough that the patent office may go, you know what, I can't find anybody that turned a paper towel into a microphone holder. And I could get a patent on that, but it wouldn't make sense because I have to spend a lot of money and no one's going to want to buy that, probably. And if you buy it instead, though, you might just go home. I have a paper towel. I'll put some tape around it. I've got my own microphone holder. And so you wouldn't patent something like that. But let's do a little inventing here. All right? Let's get this out. This is one I'm going to start on. Anybody recognize what this is? I'm going to go up to the, yeah, it's a fingernail clipper. Now, when you're inventing things, you're brainstorming for the inventing process. Identifying problems is a really good thing to do. Like my problem was I didn't have a microphone holder, and I had to solve that problem. Anyone know what a problem with this? These have problems. Does anyone know one of the problems with it? The adults probably know the problem with it. Yes, they are slippery, right? So they could put, and I think some people do put little rubber grippers on there. How about if I do this? Uh-oh.
It shoots everywhere.
It shoots everywhere. That's a big problem, right? Mm-hmm. So now what we're going to do is we're going to solve that problem. How do we solve the problem that when you're clipping something like that, how do you put a container? So what would the container look like? You're doing good. What would the container look like? Would you want to cover the front?
You don't want to cover the front. You want to put it around it. So
exactly. You don't want to cover the front. You have to leave that open so that you can still use it. But all this open area should be covered, right? And so we've invented something. Actually, someone else has already invented it. And you probably have never seen one of these, but this goes on here like that. And now, when you clip your fingernails, it stays in there. And then you can go, because it seals the side, like you said, you seal all the sides up. And then you just go like that, and it's in the trash. That's a really good invention. Now, this invention is not mine, and it's been around for probably 50 years, maybe? I don't know how long it is. I bought this particular one about 40 years ago, so it's been around for a long time. I don't know how long, but you guys just invented something not knowing that it already existed, and that's another thing. When you're inventing things, you invent something, the next thing you want to do is do a patent search to find out if someone has already invented it. Now, does anyone know what a patent search is? You do, okay.
I don't know, but I have a guess.
Okay, go for the guess.
Is it basically like where you do research to see if someone else has created something like yours?
Exactly. The patent office actually has a big database that you can go online and you can look at all the other inventions in the world. And I mean the world, not just the US, but the world. And you look for your invention. After you've invented it, you go online and look to see if someone's already invented that thing. And so that's a patent search. So that's step 3 here, and that's normally, after you invent it, you want to check to see if it's been done because you don't want to waste that $800, right? To file something that's already been done. So you do a patent search, and you can do it yourself online and find out if it's already been invented. Now, if it hasn't been invented, the next step really is to build a prototype. And sometimes I skip that part because I have a lot of physics background. I sort of know whether something's going to work or not before I build it. But a lot of times, I want to know if it actually works. And so I'll build a prototype. And building a prototype is really important to not only find out whether it works, but whether it works the way you think it's going to work and whether it's actually, you can make it. And when you do the prototype building, you find out that, okay, this worked over here, but hey, that didn't work very good, so I need to improve that. So building a prototype helps you build a better invention. And so after you do the prototyping, you say, oh, that was okay, but now I see that this needs to be fixed over here. You go back to the inventing part, fix the invention, Do a patent search to make sure that hasn't been invented, and maybe you build another prototype. And so these three here, you kind of go around and around sometimes when you're inventing. And eventually you come up to an invention that you like and that you think other people might buy, like something like this. These are still on sale. I hadn't seen one in a long, long time, but just a year ago I saw them in the stores. I think Walgreens had them with a little plastic cover so you don't have fingernail file pieces going all over the place. Now, we're going to invent something else. Where is that hose? You'd like to make what?
I made something called the filer. It's a hack that I put anywhere together.
Yep. A lot of inventions are combining two inventions together to make it better. A lot of inventors in the world, isn't there? I mean, it's really not that hard. We saw with the nail clipper, just a little bit of thought, identifying what the problem is, and then how do I solve that problem? Yeah. And so here's the thing with inventions, and that could be an invention you could patent even. The invention has to be the structure of it. You're patenting the structure, how it's actually put together. How is it built? So for example, on this invention, you have essentially a hose with an elastic tube in there, and the tube has to be able to stretch. So you have to be able to stretch the tube, and the outer cover has to stretch. And the structure of the outer cover is pleated like this so that it goes in and back out real easily. And so that structure is what's being patented, not a hose that stretches. And so you can't get a patent on a hose that stretches because that's not a structure. You actually have to claim the components. You have to have a hose end. You got to have an elastic tube in the center. You have to have a fabric cover on the outside that is pleated, and then you put them all together and explain how it's put together, and you have an invention then. Another example, for example, say you want to do an invention, a rocket ship that goes to the moon. You can't get a patent on that because that doesn't describe the structure of that rocket ship. But if you say I want a two-stage rocket with the first stage having 4,500 meters per second of delta V, and the second stage having 5,000 meters per second of delta V. And then maybe to get to the moon, you're going to need a third stage that has about 4,000 meters per second delta V. And describe how that all works. You might be able to get a patent on that if you were living about 1960 or 1950. You would be able to get a patent on that. Yes. But that would have been back in 1950. So 80 years ago, you could have got that patent. Maybe you have to go back further than that even. You might have to go back to the 40s for that particular invention.
Hey, Gary, 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay. I've already covered that. Let's look at a prototype. I've got a prototype here. This is one of my prototypes. I don't even know when I made that. I think about 2015 this prototype was done. And basically testing the stretching of this particular hose is what we were doing. And we actually put ends on it and blew it up to see how much pressure it would take to blow up the hose. And this one took 1,000 psi to blow it up. Question? Funny you should mention that.
Yeah, well, it was about something where it could expand once it was in space, and they blew it up to see how much air it would take.
Inflatable space stations. We're not going to get to that today, but that's a big thing right now. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Anyone know what this is? Go ahead, you.
Space station?
Yes, that's the International Space Station, but it's from the view of the Dragon 2 capsule coming in. You've probably seen this example before. And I put some statistics up here. The International Space Station weighs almost 1 million pounds. Heavy. And I want you to pay attention to this, how many tons of material per person that can live on that space station. And essentially the maximum is 7. Right now they have 11 up there for a very short period of time, but then it's going to go back down to 7 or 6 people. And each person has 460 square feet of living space, which is about a little bit smaller than this room. So each person on the station has about this much room. And if you ever watch them on the station, you will realize that that is about how you don't see other astronauts even when they're walking around or flying around inside the station. All right. Now, when you watch a movie, a lot of the space stations and spacecraft, the person that did that is just an artist. They did not do the math. They have no clue what they're doing. The Starship Enterprise here is actually designed with reasonable numbers. It has a crew of 430 for its size of almost 1,000 feet long. That is about right. Almost 200,000 tons. That is also very close to what it should be. And per person, 400 tons per person. Everyone knows 2 tons is about an elephant. So 400 tons is a whole bunch of elephants, 100 or 2 elephants. And so this one is one of the few out there that actually is designed correctly. The Expanse also does one. Anyone know what this is? It's the Death Star, yes. And not only is it the Death Star, it's the Death Star, the first Death Star. And let's look at some of the statistics to see if this makes sense. This is what I'm going to talk about. We're done?
I think we're.
Did the bell ring?
We're.
I got about 3 more minutes to go. All right. All right, so almost 100 miles across, right? Mostly, if you look at pictures that Lucasfilm does, it's almost 90% empty space. So you have 2,000 trillion cubic meters of space, which means every person in there has almost 10 square miles of living space. How big is 10 square miles? All right, you're going to have a hard time imagining this, how much space they have on the Death Star. But let's say your mom and you were living on the Death Star, and you each have 10 square miles, which is about 3,000 super Walmarts. And so 6,000 super Walmarts that you and your mom live on, and now you're lost and you don't know where your mom is, so you decide you're going to go to the next Walmart and see if they're in there, and then go to the next one. And every minute you go to another Walmart in that 6,000 Walmarts. How long is it going to take you to actually even look at all 6,000 Walmarts? About 4 days. If you don't stop and you work 24 hours a day, and you have to run fast because a Walmart's about over 100 yards apart. So every minute you have to run to the next Walmart. Mom, are you in here? Are you in here? And your mom's doing the same thing. All right? For basically 4 days straight. Right. And there's 6,000 Walmarts. Now, how likely are you to find your mom in those 4 days of just running from Walmart to Walmart? Mom, are you in here? Run to the next one. About 1 in 6,000, maybe somewhere between 1 in 3,000 chance. So in other words, you're not going to find her probably in those 4 days. So that's how big this is. No, I'm saying you can call it, but how big is the Walmart, right? Maybe she can hear you if you go into the right Walmart and go, Mom, are you in here? And if she happens to be in the Walmart at the same time, but there's 6,000 Walmarts. She's in a different one when you're calling. And so she can't hear you. So then you have to run to the next one and go, Mom, are you in here? And she's doing the same thing, but you both have to be in the same Walmart. Right? It's hard enough finding in one Walmart, right? But if you have 6,000, it's essentially impossible. Well, not impossible, but you might take a couple years to find your mom in there. So the Death Star has way too much room. It's not calculated properly. They didn't think about the numbers before they designed it. It's way too big. They only have 2 million people in there. That's why they all have 10 square miles of living space for each person on the Death Star. And so it's not a reasonable space station. And that's what you find in Hollywood and stuff, is most spacecraft are not reasonable. So I'm going to leave you with that. I don't think there's any more slides. I believe that's the last one. We made it to the end. Thank you. We don't have any time for questions, unfortunately. But we did questions during, so.
Maybe one.
Okay, go ahead.
Any questions?
Use your microphone. It is on.
Okay. Oh, let's use it.
I just wanted to use the microphone. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. I think he has a question.
I like this place.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you so much. Think about things you can be inventing. Go home today.
Look at the filer.
Find a problem and solve it.
Yep.
This
That's
is the most interesting career cafe I have been to.
Oh,
Thank
say that
you.
again into my microphone.
This has been the most interesting career cafe I've been to.